Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast, where unfortunately we will be talking about a defeat for Tottenham Hotspur at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against our North London rivals Arsenal. Spurs 0, Arsenal 2, an own goal from Hugo Lloris and a goal, of course, from Martin Ødegaard. Give Arsenal the 3 points today at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. They are now 8 points clear at the top of the Premier League, and we remain 5 points from the top four. Eric Dyer has just come out and said we conceded two poor goals, and second half we came out and played really well. And as you can imagine, and as you can hear me, I am struggling to get my words out. Here we go again. This is going to be like a therapy session. I warn you now. If you don't like negativity about Tottenham Hotspur, you probably should switch off now. That is a warning. You should probably switch off now, because I'll tell you what, we are four miserable sods. And let's start with a positive person. Back with us, Ricky Norwood, actor Ricky. Rick, how are you, mate?
Oh, bro. I mean, I don't even know. Do you know what? I was so like,
You're lost for words. Well, you can't even get your words out the same as me.
Oh, mate, I don't know what to say. It's a bad night for every single Tottenham fan out there. It was a poor performance, all round. There's tactics there and there's personnel there that, I don't know what was happening. But again, like, we shot ourselves in the foot. It was our own mistakes. We allowed them to come onto us. The biggest thing that I can say is that them lot deserved it, and they played well. They played with confidence. And we really made it easy for him. In a North London derby. The biggest thing that I say shocked me, but I think one of the biggest reflections, it was your last tweet, Chris. You're talking about the guy that fell asleep behind you. Do you know what I mean? So in a North London derby, bro, and it's just crazy how far both sides have come since that game in May. The crowd, the performance, the players, the team itself. We was the ones that are in Champions League, yet we just haven't pushed on again, and them lot haven't. And not only have they got the backing of their owners and their chairman and stuff, but they've been building a side for a couple of years now, and it's coming to fruition. It looks like they're probably going to win the league as well. We couldn't even dent them. We couldn't even, just stop them in their tracks just for a minute. It's just a world apart from that game in May, where everybody was, every single player, the manager, every single supporter in there was on a different level compared to today. So I'm sure we'll get in. But yeah, it's a poor performance, and it's a poor reflection of that Tottenham Hotspur side and how far we have come or haven't come.
We've also got Craig back with us, channel regular. Craig, how are you? We'll talk about the football in a minute, I might add, but how are you doing?
Thoroughly depressed like the rest of us. I mean, just before I come in here tonight, I had to switch over and see what any channel, and I happened to select Titanic was on one of the movie channels, and that cheered me up more than the Spurs performance, to be honest. And there was again, we're going around in circles. There was no fight. We were out fought. They wanted it more than us, and to be honest, those who are looking at the second half to say we played better, we did. But that was only because Arsenal took their foot off the gas and they sit back. They had the lead, and they just said, "Well, come at us. We'll defend what you throw at us," and they did. And it was just a thoroughly depressing performance against another good team. And this is becoming all too regular. We scrape through the games against teams we should win against, and we struggle against any decent opposition. And I'm fed up with it now. Absolutely fed up with the back teeth with it. I'm sorry, I can't. There's not going to be much positive come out of my mouth tonight, Chris, because I don't know what there is any positives come out of that game other than Sarr, I thought, played a half decent game. Sorry.
To be honest, I don't know whether this stream is going to be like 10 minutes long of us all having a rant, or it's going to be about 5 hours. I haven't worked it out yet. We've also got Italian journalist Simone back with us. Simone, how are you doing?
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, mate. Hi, guys. A little bit disappointed for the result, guys. My passion for Tottenham Hotspur, so really hard to take, even from Italy. So a little bit disappointed for this afternoon, for this evening.
Yeah. Well, Ricky, let's start with you. Let's talk about the football. Eric Dyer has just come out and said, as I said earlier, we conceded 2 poor goals. Second half, we came out and played really well. Isn't this the story of our season?
Yeah, and you know what? I'm a bit bored of it, and I'm a bit tired of it. It's rinse and repeat, bro. It's I sat there after the first 10 minutes when the Gooners started to play their game and come onto us, and it felt like that the game against Palace almost. There's so many games that have been like that this season, but it felt like that game against Palace where we had a good first 10 minutes and then they started to come on, and then we held out and kept it 0-0, and then we went on and played a great second half against Palace. But it was just like, I don't know, we went into our shell. There was mistakes. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how Perisic didn't start today, because he's been like one of our most creative players, not only with crosses but with assists and dynamic play, and he's somebody that you can trust. The only thing that I can think of is the pace element that Conte wanted to put in Sessegnon because he was a bit quicker. But I think even with Cess, Cess had a really poor game today, and again, I kind of come back to the thing with Cess where it's like, I don't know what type of player we've bought here. I don't know whether his time is over now, because we haven't really seen a good forward performance and we haven't seen a good defensive performance. There's been flashes over a period of time. There's been flashes from him, but you could tell after the first 20 minutes that he wasn't about it. So, I was really hoping that Conte would pull out a Mourinho card and make some subs on 20, 30 minutes. We got overrun in midfield, and it's not like this is a game that's come 2 days later or after the last game. There's been a good week of work there. There's been a good week of analysis there to figure out how they play and put together a game plan and to maybe put another body in midfield. I heard that Bissouma still was feeling the knock, so maybe that's one of the reasons why we didn't. But it was just a really poor showing today, mate. Lloris, our captain, many a week I've stuck up for him, and when he does good, I will highlight the good, because sometimes the bad just is a lot louder. It has a lot more kind of presence. The bad, it's easier to get negative than to see the positive, especially with a goalkeeper. But there's just been too many performances like that from our captain, Hugo Lloris, the most experienced player in the squad, a player that has picked up the World Cup and the Euros, and he is that guy, and he's been phenomenal for us, and he's kept us in games many a season. But I don't want to say that he's become a liability this season, but I can't find another word, and that's sad for me to say, because I love Hugo to bits. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know, mate. I don't know. As soon as it passed 20 minutes, I just sat there kind of almost emotionless, almost going, I know what's going to happen now. And I just got very, very tired of the type of performances. We know what the problems are. We say it every single week, and we've said it for a long time. And right now, at this present time, I know the transfer window is still open, but right now, the good work that we did do in the summer, which was improve the squad, not so much the 11, the 11 on the field, but we improved the squad and we bought early, and it seemed like we had a plan. With 15 days into the transfer window, and nothing's really moved, and we're not building on the steps forward that the board had made over the summer. Even though we all wanted a bit more, they had an opportunity. They still have an opportunity to build on that work, but it just seems it's actually quite funny that Craig was watching Titanic, because it was a bit like the Titanic today, man. It was a bit like we hit that iceberg and we started sinking again. And I don't know what comes next, man. I really don't. It was disappointing. But again, all I can say is fair play to the Gooners, which I don't want to say, but fair play to the Gooners because, you know, they played really well and they played with confidence and, you know, they put their plan together and we made it really easy for them to do that. They could run through us whenever they wanted. So, yeah, it's very disappointing. It's very depressing. It's a bit disgraceful in a North London derby at home to allow that type of performance and to allow that type of result. And, yeah, I just don't know where we go from here, mate.
Craig, your thoughts on the game today?
Yeah, totally echo what Ricky said. It was just embarrassing, absolutely embarrassing. As soon as that first goal went in, I knew we weren't getting back into that. You know, I mean, what Lloris is doing on the floor, I've no idea, because if he just stood up, he'd have caught it. It'd have hit his chest and he would have caught it. I've no idea what supposed world-class goalkeeper's doing there. He's had some shaky games. I love Lloris, but, you know, I think it's time for a change in that area. But the whole defensive display just wasn't solid. I don't know if I read it or heard it on the TV. How can you have a back three with two holding midfield players and still get overrun? I mean, all right, Arsenal had three in the middle, but they just bossed that midfield, ran rings round us, won the first and second balls, especially for that second goal. That was outrageous. You know, long clearance from Lloris. Didn't win the first one, didn't win the second one, cut us apart. How much room did Ødegaard have? He could have picked his spot. Great finish, but, you know, not blaming Lloris for the second one, but why wasn't he shut down? I don't understand what's going on in this club. Are the players not playing for Conte anymore? Is Conte, in my opinion, Conte's got to take a lot of the blame today. I think he's too stubborn in his tactics. I think we should have changed from the back three. I think he should have yanked Sessegnon after half an hour. I just don't think he was good enough. Still don't think Sessegnon's good enough. That's proved it today. There was changes need to be made. Perisic should have come on. He's too slow to make the changes that were needed in that game. I bet the whole crowd there could have seen that, and every Spurs fan around the world. That needed changing fast. You know, Mourinho would have changed it, like Rick said. You know, something happened. He would have made the changes necessary, at least to give us a fighting chance, because it was clear we were getting overrun throughout the game. Started well, which we've done in the past. We started well at Palace. It was almost like mirror image of that game that we were up against a much better team in Arsenal. There was no way we was going to come back into that. There was no way at all. As I said earlier, I'm just getting to a point now. I'm just sick of it, because you know where this is going every single week. You get up because we beat Palace, but let's be honest, with all respect to Palace, it's Palace. You know, let's not forget how badly we lost against Villa. You know, there's been. Let me ask you guys a question. Anybody watching? When was the last time you enjoyed watching Tottenham for 90 minutes?
Right,
I can't remember when that was.
I ask this question to the guests every single week, and I asked the guy sitting next to me today the same question, because all season I don't feel that we've been entertained. And you know, a lot of people say, well, when you win games and you pick points up, a lot of people forgive that because you're winning. But I'm totally with you. I haven't been entertained all season. You know, when you talk about real entertainment, and I hate to say it because people are going to say, "Oh, you're on the Pochettino bandwagon," but you know, that entertaining football where we were all coming away from stadiums and watching it on the TV, going, "Wow, that was a fantastic display." We haven't done that this season, and you know, things do need to change. It's interesting what you said as well about Ødegaard's goal, because the amount of time and the amount of space that he had then. And during the game, which of course we will go through the key instance of the match, they had a number of opportunities like that. Thomas Partey, of course, hit the post with a fantastic strike. No one closing down. The amount of goals, you know, people won't like me for saying this, but 2-0 probably flattered us, because they could have had a whole lot more.
It did.
It did. Simone, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts.
Yeah, you're right. I mean,
but before we do, Simone, there's a comment here from Roy. It could have been seen as a game of two halves. Could it be argued that the goalkeepers were the difference? Bottom line today was a disaster and not good enough. I certainly agree with you, Roy. Thanks for your comment. Simone, let's get your thoughts on tonight's game.
Guys, I'm getting boring to describe the differences between the first half and the second half of Spurs this season, because of course we are talking about a team that starts so slowly, and a team that is trying to react every time in the second half. Is for sure. First of all, guys, it's very difficult to describe what happened today, because it's not just a defeat. It's not just a defeat in a North London derby. It's a defeat to your rivalries that become the real favorite to win the title. And it changed completely the situation about Spurs, about Levy, about Conte, about Harry, about Sonny, about everyone. This is trying to change the situation. So very many aspects to underline, many aspects to discuss about. Very hard afternoon, hard evening to take for every sports fan around the world.
Simone, in your opinion, what needs to change immediately?
What needs to change, Chris? It's a very big question. First of all, the attitude into the first half is that has to be a problem in every game during the world season. I'm angry towards Antonio as well, because Antonio, in every press conference, he is the one that is blaming, that is asking for time and patience, and he's still the one that is refusing to sign a new contract. So it's the time. He's asking for time and patience, but he's still refusing to sign a new contract. And this is the difference. And in every single press conference, is still saying that the top four, the big four in England, are Chelsea, Man U, Man City, and Liverpool. He never, from last summer, he never spelled Arsenal. Arsenal nowadays is at the top of the table, 8 points ahead on Man City, 9 points ahead on Man United. They are trying to make the miracle. And they're trying to win the title. So it's a big failure for him right now. So I'm not saying Conte, Poch back, or hashtag like that, but I'm just saying what's happening around the club right now. Even in Italy, guys. Even in Italy.
Simone, are you still behind Antonio Conte? Do you think that he is the right man to take Tottenham forward? Because there are a lot of comments coming in stating that we now need to change our manager. Who are you with? Are you Conte in or Conte out?
Chris, I still Conte in because we are coming from Jose Mourinho and Nuno Espirito Santo. So if I have to choose, I'm still backing Antonio. I got a lot of I rate him a lot, to be honest, because he's a Serie winner. He won in Juventus, he won in Inter de Milan, he won in Chelsea. He made a fantastic spell with the Italian national team. We in Italy know him very well. But just like I said in the past, he's not someone that stays so much time into a single club. And to bring Tottenham back to that Pochettino levels, you need to spend time at the club. It's not about 2 years. Look at Arteta. They cope with their troubles. They stay behind him. They cope with everything. 3 seasons in a row. Very tough. Very difficult for them. But nowadays, they fail a season to finish into the top 4. Now they're trying to win the titles. And they've got, incredibly, because no one gave them a chance, they are trying to win the titles, and they've got nowadays a huge chance to win the Premier League, and that's incredible. This is football. This is football, guys. But it sounds like incredible nowadays. So this is my feeling.
Can I ask the same question to you, Ricky and Craig, about Antonio Conte? Are you still with him? Are you still backing Antonio Conte?
For me, I am. I still don't think he's been given enough of the tools that he needs to kind of implement the system that he wants. You know, we know about both fullbacks, right and left. Perisic, you know, was one of these soldiers that have come in that he requested, and we've seen why he requested him, and we've seen what he brings to the side. You know, Kulu and Bentancur, when they came in, again, two players that both him and Paratici knew about and knew that they could trust him to do the job that was needed at that time. And we saw what that done to us last year. You know, Romero, another one. So it's like, we have to, because our squad is so far behind. And there's some of those players that were there that have been there since Poch, that, you know, that had a turn of form last year and went out for the fight, and got us into that top 4 position. But when you get there, you have to build on the foundations that you're trying to implement. They, you know, we've rinsed and repeated a lot of players. I saw Dyer today leave certain things and allow people to kind of just glide past him today. You know, there's just, we know about the right wing back and the left and Sessegnon. We've known about them for a long time. We've known that we've needed somebody of real quality in the middle as well. You know, we've all been, we've said it every single week, so I don't want to just repeat ourselves, but I'm sure we will do anyway. But I still back him. And I think that if you was to give him what he needs right now, then I think that at least we're building and we're going forward, and we can see the type of Conte side that he wants to bring to Tottenham. But right now, it's just not there. And I think that if we continue, if we come out of this transfer period and we don't build and we don't add and we don't inspire this squad, then I think we'll be Titanic FC again, just rolling on them waves.
Rick, are you surprised on how many people are questioning Antonio Conte as Spurs boss? Because I'm very much, you know, as you guys know, I'm very much, you know, behind Antonio Conte. I think he's a world-class manager. I think if there's anyone who's going to be successful, it is Conte at Spurs. But as Simone said earlier, he hasn't committed to Spurs. His contract ends on the 30th of June. I'm worried about the direction and the ambition of the club again. As I said this, you know, over the last few years, under Pochettino, under Jose Mourinho, under Nuno Espirito Santo, and now, of course, under Conte, this transfer window, as Conte said in the last couple of weeks, you know, you need to upgrade and buy new players, 50, 60, 70 million pound players, good players to walk into the starting 11. This transfer window is absolutely key, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely key. And I'm not surprised that some people are criticizing Conte, because the thing is that when Conte came into the club, he rose the bar. He held the board to account. He gave us hope again. He inspired us all. We all backed him from the start. We all sang his name from the start. We all pushed him. We all knew that somebody as strong and as ruthless as he is, if anybody could turn the fortunes of this club around, it would be him. But again, you know, look, the squad itself, with people like Basuma and I would say Spence, but Spence ain't getting a look in, is he? But he's up the squad, right? He's up the level of the squad, but he hasn't been able to do that in the first 11. You know, we spent 60 mil on Richarlison. We haven't seen much of him because of injury, and in the league, he still hasn't scored. You know, he still hasn't had an opportunity really. He scored 2 great headers in the Champions League, and thank goodness he did at that point. But we still haven't seen what he can bring to the side. And because he rose the bar, I think that he can be criticised as well, in the sense of, like we've said, you know, the changes, whether that's a sub change or whether that's a formation change or whether that's a personnel change. We expect him, because we've all said for a long time now, since he's been here, he is a serial winner. He knows what to do to get this side winning and to push it forward, because he's done it everywhere he's been. So why ain't it happening right now? Or why ain't there changes coming earlier? Or why are you waiting until the 87th minute to try and bring on Brian Hill, who might be able to change the game? There's certain decisions that are being made now that people are questioning. And I don't think that's a criticism, like a negative criticism of Conte. I think it's because he rose the levels. He is showing us that he is Harrods. Do you know what I mean? And he's the best that you can get. So we expect the best that we can get from the best in the business. Do you know what I mean? So I don't see it as a negative criticism, but I think the fans are entitled to be upset with him. Like Simone said there about his contract, we've known about that. We've known about the contract situation, and it's only been this year, just before we started the season again after the World Cup. It's only been this year where I've kind of been apprehensive about him signing a new deal. Pre-World Cup, I was like, he's signing 100%. This is a club for him. Everything's there for him to build something. Everything's there for him to achieve something, as long as the club continue to back him and back the vision. But after those press conferences, pre the restart and in the first couple of games of the restart, I was just like, oh, I don't know about this. Which, again, why would you as a club, as a board, and they can use this as an excuse now of why they don't invest. Why would you invest in a 60 million or a 50 million pound player for a manager that may not be there in the summer? And then we've got a managerial search again, and then we've got another manager who comes in who doesn't play three at the back. He plays a different system altogether. And then we've got to remix the squad again. So, like Simone said there, he asks for time and patience, but he has to show a little bit of commitment now as well, whether he wants to be with us or whether he doesn't. Ricky,
just a quick yes or no. Will Antonio Conte be our manager on the 1st of July?
I can't answer it, bruv. Right now, I can't answer.
Because you know what? As things stand, I don't think he will be.
I mean, do you know what? The evidence shows us right now, especially with the board not being able to guarantee certain players or certain budgets, that it doesn't seem like a great place to be right now. So, you know, your fears or your suspicions are probably going to end up being true, especially if we go and get some players that he doesn't want again, and then they just sit in the squad and then they lose their value and then we lose money on that. It's just it feels like it's a house of cards ready to fall over at any moment. So I see why you say that, Chris, but I'm trying to still be hopeful. I'm trying to still be hopeful myself, but
yeah, I really do hope I'm wrong, and I'm hoping in the next 16 days that we actually go out and back this manager in the right way that he should be backed. Let's wait and see. Craig, let's come to you on the same question about Antonio Conte. Are you fully behind Conte? And I ask that question for you especially because you've just said you haven't been entertained all season. So are you enjoying Antonio Conte's style of football? Do you think he is the man to drive Tottenham forward?
To be honest, I've lost a bit of love for Conte, to be honest, over the last few weeks. Hand on heart, I never thought Clay was a perfect fit for Tottenham, but there's no doubt he's a world-class manager. When you bring in a manager like that, I thought, okay, the board know what type of manager he is. He's not a long-term project manager, so they're going to throw money at it like all the other big clubs seem to do, rightly or wrongly, but at least we'll get somewhere, at least we'll improve, and then when he does leave, you've got a squad that's in a better place than it was before he joined. When you look at the Spurs' last three managers, they've been more pragmatic defensive managers, so you can't deny it. You went from Jose to Nuno and now Conte. They're not Poch or Redknapp type managers, are they? That's where we had all them years of being entertained, exactly what you said, Chris. And now you can, to a degree, take winning every week, and of course you take winning every week if you're not playing particularly attractive football. I mean, look at the Nuno first three games. We won all three of them 1-0. It was bloody awful to watch, but we had 9 points from 9 available.
Yeah,
you know. So, but then of course we all know what happened. And for me, like I say, I've never thought Conte was the perfect fit for Tottenham. But look, at the moment, I still think I'll back him. But I totally agree with what Ricky said. It's almost like the irresistible first false up against the immovable object. I can get Daniel Levy saying to him, well, look, here's your contract. This is what we're prepared to offer you. And he's saying, I don't want to sign it. What would you do as an owner of the club? You can only throw so much money at it. It's obvious to me that Conte's not all about money. if he thinks he's going to be, if Levy's promised him we're going to get these players in, we're going to go for these players, we're going to spend big. It's inherently difficult in January to get in, the players that you want, because the players might not want to even move. So I have some sympathy for Daniel Levy.
So many people keep saying about how difficult it is to get deals done in January. All the other teams around us are getting deals done in January. They are.
But when I'm talking about getting deals done, it's clearly obvious how many holes there are in this squad. You're not going to be able to build a squad in January. You're just going to get if you're lucky, like we were last year, you get a Bentancur and Kulusevski. Now, whether you think we're going to go and get Porro, I don't know. I don't know much about him. I want him in as much as everybody else. But I'll be honest, I don't know much about him. If that's a player Conte wants, go and get him. As long as you've got to look at that deal and say, they're going to have 40 million or whatever it is his release clause. If they don't think it's worth that, at what point do you pull out of that deal? I don't know. I'm not up on how all this works, but I'm a bit annoyed Conte won't sign a new deal, because personally, if you're asking me the question, I think he's going to be gone on July the 1st. I don't think he's going to stay if he doesn't go before. And then what do you do? Pochettino standing in the wings. Do we go and get him back? But then again, I think if you go with any manager, like Rick said, you might get a manager who wants to play 4 at the back. And then you're back to square one. I don't know what the answer is, if I'm honest. And would Conte leave and solve it? No. Would Conte stay and solve it if he's not backed? No. So I just don't know. I mean, Simone might be able to say more about the inside into Milan and all what went on there. Is Conte a bloke that if he's not getting what he wants, he just walks? He doesn't care about the money. He'll just walk. He won't wait to be sacked. So, and if that happens, oh God, we're in serious doo-doo. But it can't go on like this.
Yeah, that is exactly what I was going to come on to, actually. Simone, of course, you're based in Milan. You would have seen Antonio Conte's career very closely. Of course, he won Serie A with Inter and then left. So it goes to show that he could leave even after winning a Serie A title. How do you see this panning out at Tottenham with him and his contract?
It's just like Craig said, he's not a long-term manager project. He's not perfect for that kind of profile. He's an instant, just like you said, he's an instant manager. He came to the club, he used to make, and last season too, made a miracle to finish into the top 4 with that team. Because for me, I completely agree with what he says in every press conference. He made a miracle, but if you wanna try to build up something for the future, maybe you need someone that is loyal. Whatever happens in the circumstances, whatever happens in the in other clubs, you need a manager that can stay at the club for many seasons, just like Poch did in your past. And this is an aspect that I'd like to underline. It's not a secret that Antonio never played a Champions League semi-final. So we are talking about a top-class, world-class manager in terms of winning an instant title, making something incredible when he got appointed with some club. But in Europe, something does not go for its way. So this season, I was asking something more from Antonio, and I'm not receiving the answers that I would have loved to receive.
Simone, let's stay with you for a second. Another comment here from Jerome. Pedro Porro has a release clause. If we were serious, we'd be paying that and get the man. Absolutely furious with the direction of the club. How do you feel about the direction of the club since Antonio Conte come in? Because surely, Jerome is right. Pedro Porro, we know the price. It is a clear price. It's a clear deal. If you want the player, pay the release clause.
Chris,
Do you think that Spurs will pay this release clause for Pedro Porro?
I don't know. I think that Pedro Porro is a fantastic right back. I don't know if he is a good right wing back, and that's a big difference. Big difference in terms of Antonio Conte's football. I think that he's a very good player. I think that he has got a lot of potential, but Premier League is Premier League, as you know. So it's not about Daniel Levy backing Conte, the board backing Conte. It's all about, guys, the recruitment. You know, which are the most paid Tottenham deals in the last couple of seasons, in the last 4 or 5 years? Davinson Sanchez, Tanguy Ndombele, Gio Lo Celso, when you needed to bring in Bruno Fernandes, because the first choice for Mauricio Pochettino wasn't Gio Lo Celso, was Bruno Fernandes. So I'm reading a lot of comments, I'm hearing a lot of comments. Guys, it's not about how much money you have. Of course, we are talking about the Premier League, Man City, Chelsea, Newcastle, Man U. I completely agree with you. But what is going to make the difference at the end of the day is not just the money, it's the way you are going to spend your money. And this is the difference. I remember 15 years ago, Erwin Renap brought in Manuel Adebayor for £5 million, Rafael van der Vaart for £80 million, Jermaine Defoe back from Portsmouth for 7 million pounds, things like that. Aaron Lennon from Leeds, Gareth Bale from Southampton. So it's not about Spurs history. It's like that. It's not about how much or many money you spend in a player, because of course money don't say the truth. And of course we are talking about the biggest summer transfer in the recent history of Tottenham, because £60 million for Richarlison, 25 for a top bargain, just like Bissouma, that Antonio Conte is currently ruining, because Bissouma, guys, is a top Premier League player. He's one of the best. But if you play 3-4-3, you have just 2 players in the midfield. You need 3 players, just like today. Ødegaard, Xhaka, and Thomas Partey were completely dominating the game. And Antonio, I don't know, maybe he was sleeping, but that's the truth. That's the truth. And the reason why Antonio never played a Champions League semi-final and just once a Champions League quarter-final is that he's completely unable to change the system during the game. It's all about 3-4-3 or 3-4 or 3-5-2. It's all about the system, but that's a mistake. So, of course, Levy needs to improve. I'm reading and hearing a lot of criticism about the board, about the chairman, and I completely agree with some of them. But of course, I need to be honest. If you want an honest answer, I need to be critical as well. As an Italian that rate a lot Antonio Conte, be critical of him, of his tactics, guys. It's not about entertaining football, fussy football, because I remember very well a manager that now is a manager of Man U. So I'm talking about Erik ten Hag. Nowadays, everyone talks about him, but we are talking about someone that just 4 years ago he managed to lose a Champions League semi-final because he simply was unable to defend. So he was leading 3-0 against Tottenham. Lucas Moura scored 3 goals. So it's not about entertaining football, modern football, attractive football, if you love this kind of expressions. But I need to be honest and say, Antonio, even if he is a pretty football, he's not someone that is known in the world to be able to play a fantastic football. Antonio is a top manager, but he needs to receive some criticism because he's the one that is currently refusing to sign a new contract. And if I am in a dressing room, if I am a Hurricane, Son, or top players like that, I don't know what the future will do. I don't know. So these kind of considerations, I think they are right to be on the basics.
Well, we've got a couple of other questions here. Rick, let's come to you. 2000 GT writes, Spurs will get to the FA Cup final and Conte will be sacked the week before. I think there's a lot of sarcasm there. But of course, it's weird because a couple of weeks ago, Conte was saying, no offence to the, or no disrespect to the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup, but we want to be going for the Premier League and the Champions League. And then only a couple of days ago, he's saying that the FA Cup is now an important competition. Of course, he said a couple of weeks ago as well that we need a miracle to finish in the top four again, which I completely agree with, especially after today. Do you think the ambition for this season in particular has now changed? Do you think that we will be taking the FA Cup a little bit more seriously than what we would have done to try and put that trophy in the cabinet, perhaps?
You know what? See, that same comment was said by Poch as well, Chris, about the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. And I don't think both managers meant it as a disrespect or meant it as a kind of like as something that we don't want. I think both Poch and Conte would love any trophy. Any trophy means glory, right?
Yeah.
So those two competitions, there's an opportunity to have a bit of glory. But I think what they mean by that, both managers, both Poch and Conte, when they've said that, I think the ambitions are higher. So it's not that these are not important, the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. It's not that they're not important, but where they want to be going is for the Premier League title and is for the Champions League title, because it's like aiming for the stars, and if aiming for the moon, and if you hit the stars along the way, then fantastic. Do you know what I mean, sort of thing. So I don't think it's as disrespectful as some might interpret. I think there are opportunities for glory, and the FA Cup, as you've rightly said, many weeks in a row, Chris. It's been a long time since we've won that, and the last time we won it, I think it was the 8th time that we won it. And the FA Cup used to be our trophy. And
Rick, I've been saying it. I've been saying it since 1991.
This is what I'm saying, bro. Since the bloody last time. Do you know what I mean? So I think it is an important opportunity to lift the trophy. I think any opportunity for this Tottenham side we have to take, because again, with as we've been talking about the uncertainty under Conte right now, there's uncertainty with whether Sonny would want to stay or whether Kane is gonna, Kane might beat Greaves' record and then be like, well, that's all I can achieve with Tottenham. I've done everything that I can do. And maybe it's best if I go my own way come the summer. Who knows, And especially when we talk, because it's a culmination of things. We know about the culmination of things. It's been 20 odd years of the same things happening year in, year out, with manager in and manager out. So we was hoping, all of us, every single Spurs fan was hoping that with Conte and with Paratici by his side, that especially when you bring in a manager like Conte, that we was going to go for it a bit. We was going to risk a bit and kind of try and put our best foot forward to get the trophies, which ones they are, to get these trophies in the cabinet. And that's why it's really important, regardless of whether Conte's there or not, they still need to sign some decent players, because the squad itself is behind. It's behind so many other teams. We're seeing Chelsea spend money like nothing. We're seeing Wolves spend money. We're seeing Leeds spend money. We're seeing a lot of teams spend money. Southampton have done a couple of bits. I know some of these sides are struggling, but the more we stand still, the more we just sink like the Titanic, bro. So, and we become Titanic FC again. So it's all about that inspiration. It's not, if they know that Conte's not going to be there, then they have to get somebody, the people that they go for, they have to get in for the team to not only be successful this season, end of this season, but for the seasons ongoing. you know, or buy into players that they can sell on again if it comes to it. I think we've been way too scared to sell players in recent times as well. So I think every single trophy is an important opportunity for us to go and put something in that cabinet, which is very dusty, and to build some confidence within this side. You know, I think, look, we all know what it's been like for season in, season out. Those players that have been there since the end of Poch, how do they feel when the roller coaster's like this all the time? They must get tired. They must get tired with it. They must get fed up with it and going, "Oh goodness, here we go again. Here we go again. What are we doing here?" Do you know what I mean? They must, and you look at some of their body language or some of their energy. It's not at 100%, and maybe it is because they're fed up. Maybe it is the same old story. Maybe it is because, you know, that the players feel like they've been lied to. You know, we're going to bring in a world-class manager. Here's Antonio Conte. He's a serial winner. Watch what we do with him. Watch, we're going to back him. We're going to get some big players in. Oh, look, we spent 60 million on Richarlison. Oh, look, this is the beginning of something special. And then it falls flat again. Do you know what I mean? If we all know where the problems are in that squad, no matter how nice and how friendly they are and how great they are as people off the field, there's certain things that are not happening on the field. So what are you going to do? Right now, Chelsea are in 10th, but everybody that around in that dressing room are looking around at each other going, what? They've spent another 90 million. What's going on? That's my position under threat. Oh, I don't know whether I'm going to be here or be sold or that's going to push their performances. And yes, they're having their dip right now, but the amount of money that they're spending, you know.
In fairness, though, Rick, we have seen before that we've spent money like on Ndombele and Lo Celso, and it hasn't worked out. It is about the recruitment. Simone said this earlier. With Chelsea going out spending all of this money at the moment. You know, if a few more results don't go their way, Graham Potter is under serious trouble there at Chelsea, and they've just gone out and spent all this money on all of these new players.
Yeah, but it's not only the new players, Chris. It's also about like players like Lukaku, who they spent 100 million on. Didn't work out, and then they've sent him out on loan to go and do. Kepa, they spent 71 million on. Is not their number one. He's their number one right now because Mendy is injured, but he's not their number one. Do you know what I mean? So every time we spend money on a big player and we get burned because we've bought the wrong big player, or the player just doesn't work out for our system, for our team, for our manager, that can't stop us from spending any more money. Sometimes we've got to take the hit and play this football game.
I just feel that if we're going to sign players, they've got to be Antonio Conte's choices. They can't be club signings. They've got to be, you know, if you're bringing in a world-class manager to be successful for you, then trust him to do the job. Now, let's get on to some more comments and let's get on to team selection today, because we haven't even discussed the game really as yet. Comment on screen now. Poor first half. Must be Antonio Conte. No. Also, squad choice today. Why didn't we play Perisic and Basuma? Sessegnon, Dyer, not good enough. We need 3 to 4 top-class players. Right wing back, left wing back, centre back, Cam, get Trossard, Madison and Porro and more. We've said this many, many times on this channel. A lot of us have said the same thing. Darren Altman, of course, friend of the show. Evening, gents. I hate to be right, but as soon as I saw the team, I told you that we would get battered. Such a strange selection. We were woeful. Craig, let's come to you on the team selection, because I was a little bit surprised, I must say, when the team did come out an hour before kickoff. Lloris in goal, the back three of Romero, Dyer and Lenglet, the wing back Doherty and Sessegnon, in midfield Højbjerg and Sarr, and then the front three of Son, Kane and Kulusevski. Subs today: Forster, Skip, Sanchez, Richarlison, Hill, Royale, Perisic, Davis and Basuma. I've got to say, what surprised me is that Perisic wasn't in the starting 11 today, and I was really surprised by Basuma not starting this game, and of course Sarr coming in. Hasn't played a lot in a Tottenham Hotspur shirt this season, and under Antonio Conte. And let's face it, this is probably the biggest game of our season. Arsenal at home. This is a game that you want to see the best possible 11. Were you surprised by the team selection today?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, for the reasons that you've highlighted there. There's a bit of feedback. I can hear myself. There you go. Yeah, no, I was surprised that Sarr came in. I mean, apparently Bissouma took a knock on the ankle. But I still maintain, I think it was a game we should have gone 3 in the middle, to be honest. But Sessegnon, as I said earlier, after 20 minutes, you could see that Saka was causing him absolute murders. And what annoys me about Sessegnon, he commits silly fouls all the time. All the time. He's trying to nick the ball, and you just can't do it sometimes. You have to just jockey. And he gave away 2 or 3 fouls in, difficult positions, giving the ball back to the opposition. And for me, he doesn't look like he's ever at 100%, Sessegnon. When he was at Fulham, he used to tear up and down that line. It almost seems like it's either self-belief or whether he doesn't want to risk doing his hamstring again. I don't know. There was a couple of times he went on runs down the wing. He put in a couple of very poor crosses in that first half. And you think, just go at the man, beat him on the outside and whip him across, and he didn't do it. So for me, I think with Doggy coming in the summer, I think he's the one that's going to be positioned under threat and even look to move him on, because I think most people would agree that Perisic is a better candidate in that role than Sessegnon is. But having Sarr in the middle, massive game. As I say, I don't think he did particularly badly today. I thought he played okay, but we were overrunning that centre midfield, and it was just a bad. I blame Conte for that. You could see it wasn't working. It was just a bad tactical setup today. He should have changed that earlier, and it's got to be on him. That he's the manager. You need to be adaptable and make those on-pitch decisions, and whether that means making early substitutions or shuffling the formation, it was clear to everybody we were getting overrun, and he was wrong for that, in my opinion.
Simone, same question to you. Were you surprised by Conte's team selection today?
Yeah, definitely. I still have to look at his press conference, because he has to explain me why Perisic wasn't even starting, just like Craig was saying. And I cannot understand why Sarr and not Bissouma, because of course, guys, Sarr is a very, very good prospect because he can play very well the ball. But guys, Bissouma was the best player for Brighton last season when Brighton beat Tottenham in the league on Easter. And he scored an amazing goal against Spurs in the last game in the FA Cup. So we are talking about, guys, a fantastic player for me in terms of potential. In terms of Ryan Sessegnon, I completely agree with you, guys. But I think that this time is not Antonio Conte's task. I'm blaming him. I'm blaming Ryan Sessegnon, because Sessegnon has got a huge potential, but my feeling is that he's losing, he's wasting a very, very important opportunity, because he's not a left wing, he's not a left back, he's a proper left wing back. So on its way, he found the perfect manager for him, Antonio Conte, because he played a system with a proper left wing back, 3-4-3. Today was his chance. He finished last season very well. He started against Southampton this season very well. I don't know if it's a mental issue. I don't know if it's a physical problem, a physical aspect, but he's suffering a lot. And today he failed an incredible chance like in Ramsdale at the start of the second half. But I don't see any kind of consistency in his game this season. So, of course, Ivan Perisic, 33 years old, a very, very strong player. I expected him to start in this kind of games, in this kind of situations. There was fact after this defeat. It's not about Spurs' ambition. I know every Spurs fan around the world is about which is the team that is closer to win the league. This is the problem, guys. This is the problem right now. Arsenal at the top of the table.
Simone, if I would have asked you at the end of last season, if I would have said to you, right, next January, Spurs are going to be playing Arsenal at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in the Premier League, and our wing backs are going to be Sessegnon and Matt Doherty, what would you have said?
Incredible, Chris. And you know why? I really really rate Matt Doherty as a good player. Because for me, Matt Doherty, Irish international, very good player, but he's a squad player. Ben Davies is a squad player. Eric Dyer is a squad player. If you wanna aim to win the Premier League or to finish into the top 4 season in and season out, we are talking about, guys, players that need to be just squad players, not starters. Of course, when you pay £25 million for Emerson Royal, that is the worst right wing back in the league, into the Premier League, this is the consequences. And on this aspect, I'm not blaming Antonio. I'm blaming Paratici. Because I don't know why, in England, guys, Fabio Paratici is overrated. In Italy, Paratici is a very good sporting director, but he's never the best. He's never the best, guys. He's the one that spent 3 weeks to decide the manager of Spurs, having a lunch with the former Roma manager, Paolo Fonseca, on the Comos Lake, then turned the attention on Gattuso, then turned the attention of Nuno, decided to appoint Nuno, £25 million for Emerson Royal, £26 million plus Eric Lamela for a young team that never played into the Premier League, just like Brian Gill. So, my feelings is that someone has overrated the figure of Fabio Paratici. This is my feeling, guys, because I live in Italy. I got to know him for a very, very long time. And I know the way he acts. But what Antonio is doing is quite surprising me a lot, guys. A lot.
Ricky, let's come to you. Another comment on screen here. I miss Pochettino. The reason it went wrong for Pochettino is because he wasn't backed. Even Conte has been backed this past year. Conte does need more spending. Agree with you, Chris. By what Conte wants, he knows how to win. What do you say to the fans who say about Pochettino? Because Pochettino's name keeps coming up a lot, and it's like people want to keep planning about our next manager. I don't want to talk about a new manager right now. You know, don't get me wrong. I think that I would love Pochettino to come back one day. But I just think that some people think that Pochettino is going to come back in the near future, wave a magic wand, and everything's going to be all right again. It's just not going to work like that. Surely Conte just needs to be given a chance, needs to be given the money to spend. And as I said earlier, needs to be given the players that he actually wants, not what the club want and not what Fabio Paratici wants or Daniel Levy wants. It must be what he wants.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you there, Chris. But the reason that we always go back to Poch is because Poch was Spurs inside out. He played the way that we like to play. He brought through the youth. He changed the midfield every year. You know, he was dedicated. He loved us. He cried for us. He bled for us. He gave us hope. He gave us pride. He put fear into other sides every time they come up against Tottenham. It was similar to the Gooners today. The way that they're playing is the way that we used to play under Poch. You know, full of energy, full of vigor, and it's not like every single game went our way, but we had that comeback ability about us as well. There was times that we was down in the 90th minute and would come back to win a game. You know, he gave us so much, and he took us as far as anybody has taken us. You know, he took us to the Champions League final, and we all know as Spurs fans that it was a missed opportunity to not back him in those 2-3 windows, however long it was, when we didn't sign a player. We knew everybody could feel it in the pit of our stomach, and that's what is really, I think, has contributed to the kind of disappointment and ferocity that we have against the board every time that there's an opportunity to move forward, to push forward, to build on what you've just put down, the foundations that you've just laid. You end up smashing those foundations, cracking it to pieces and starting again. And it's difficult, but, you know, like, you know, as soon as I think about Poch, I smile, bro, and I can't help it. And, you know, the day that they sacked him, I remember I was I was doing the washing up. I was listening to the radio at the same time, and they came through on the radio TalkSport that you know, they'd sacked Pochettino, and I said no. Right, the way that I said no was like people say no in the movies when their loved one, you know, when their partner has died and they're grabbing, they're holding on, they're like, no, like, bro, that's how I said no. Yeah. And it was with my heart. Like, so much so that my missus ran down and was like, what's happened? What? Because it was one of those panic no's. Do you know what I mean? She didn't know whether I'd injured myself. She didn't know whether there's been like somebody had passed. She didn't know anything. She just heard the tone of my no, bro. And she was like, what? And I was just like, I can't believe it, babe. They've sacked him. Do you know what I mean? And you know, she understood, but at the same time, she's like, oh, I thought it was something serious. And to me, it was really serious, because he was one, like Simone was saying there, he was one that would go through the thick and the thin with us. He really did build that side. He really did implement so many things that were destroyed as soon as he left. Mourinho came in and started breaking down those foundations that he built. Nuno came in and, you know, finished them. And that's why when Conte turned up, we was like, please, we're okay. We're going to go with somebody who plays a different style, as in a 3 at the back, where we was, I think our best formation was 4-2-3-1. I think that's the best way that we got the best out of the side, and the best style of play as well. But I was like, okay, cool. You know, we've got this top-class manager in, world-class manager in. So, look, maybe we're going to get our Tottenham back. And little bit by little bit, we just kept building. And in that end of the season last year, the way that they just went on a run, the way that we beat the Gooners last year, the way that we beat Norwich last year, the way that Sonny got his golden boot last year. There were so many good things that were happening that I was like, oh, my gosh, we've got our Tottenham back, you know? Like that style of play that we was playing at towards the end of the season, that was a Tottenham that I was looking forward to seeing this season. I thought that we was going to spend 80 to 100 million on Bastoni. Just go get him. I thought we were serious, you know. Obviously, Bastoni wanted to stay at his club. That's totally understandable. I totally get it. You know, but this is where the ups and downs are coming from. And this is where the kind of, like I say, the upset and the anger is coming from the fans' point of view. Is because, again, we've got this guy. We're 15 days into the transfer window. I don't know how we didn't have a plan for this transfer window. We've said in the summer, we said that the most important positions for a Conte system, and Simone, you can jump in on it as well, is a right wing back and a left wing back. Now, to me, you know, Doherty didn't do nothing for me today. Again, was ineffective, done nothing for me. He was there as a person that helped the back line. And I say helped in inverted commas, really, because I didn't really see him do anything. Sessegnon. Cess, do you know what? Cess reminded me, you know, he is bereft of confidence. He is. And I don't know what it is, but do you know who he looked like to me, body language-wise? He looked like David Bentley today. Do you remember when David Bentley? Yeah. We spent money on David Bentley. Yeah. And there was, you know, after he done the.
But that was a mistake. That was a mistake, Ricky, because of course, as a right winger, you already had got one of the best at the time, just like Carol Lennon. So absolutely pointless.
Do you know what? Do you know what, Rick? Earlier on in the season, when we lost the Carabao Cup game against Forest, a player passed the ball out to him. The ball literally went under his foot. It went out for a throw. He looked very disappointed. The fans were very disappointed. That same incident happened again in today's game.
It happened a couple of times. It wouldn't fall for him. He couldn't control it. He couldn't beat a player. This is what I'm saying. And that's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of David Bentley towards the end of his time, where it just looked like he just didn't have it in his heart anymore. And I hope that's not the case, because he's still a young player. Do you know what I mean? For his career, whether that's at Tottenham or not, I hope that's not the case for him, you know, as a man and as a player and as somebody is doing a job that he loves to do. I hope that he hasn't lost that. But that's what it looked like to me, you know, and we've got to, like you say about Conte and the play, we've got to be able to give him the tools so that he can implement his system. We can't just keep rinsing and repeating and trying to get a few more drops out of players that are tired or that are not working, or we're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole just to save an extra 5 mil. Do you know what I mean? Like, everybody has to be a bit more ruthless right now. You know, from top to bottom, there has to be some time. We have to see the plan. We have to see what's going on with Conte, and we have to buy some serious players. We're changing the squad. It's a process. Yes, they have spent money, but we know there's so much more that needs to be done.
Yeah.
Guys, trust me, the biggest difference between Antonio and Mauricio is that with Antonio, you just want to see instant results. With Mauricio, it's all about time and patience, because you can wait someone who loves you, that is ready to stay 3, 5, 4 or 5.5 years, waiting and asking, rightly so, for time and patience. This is the biggest difference, because Antonio is the same that is asking time and patience, but he's the same that is refusing to sign a new contract. So it's absolutely pointless, and he's damaging the dressing room. I think that is incredible what he's doing right now, to be honest, guys. Today, I think his tactics were completely wrong. Playing against the best teams in terms of ball possession, 3-4-3, with the same dynamics, same system. 2 midfielders, Pepe Matassar and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, against Ødegaard, Thomas Partey, and the same Granit Xhaka. 3 versus 2 is incredible, guys. We are talking about huge mistakes. If you look at the Championship or Ligue 1 or Ligue 2, no one, I'm sure, no one in England will do the same mistakes. No one.
Craig, let's come to you. A couple of comments here. Pointless changing the manager. Still the same squad. Completely agree. Another comment here. Spurs need major investment in the window or they won't make Europe. I suspect we can kiss Europe goodbye. Is this a big worry to you even at this stage of the season? Because we're now 5 points adrift of the top 4.
Yeah, and look who we got coming up. We got 2 games against City and a high-flying Fulham as well. So, you know, it could be by the end of January, I don't want to say it, we could have slipped further down that table. But all I'll say, if somebody had said to you at the beginning of the season, mid-January, you're going to be well above Chelsea and Liverpool, you'd think we would be 3rd, something like that. Just so happens that Manchester United are having a bit of a renaissance. Newcastle are playing fantastic. And obviously, let's not talk about that mob down the road. I mean, I don't think anybody could have seen that coming. But it just goes to show that a squad of young players, and if you do give a manager time and, you know, there's belief within the club that manager is right for your club, that, you know, you can work some good stuff. Does the club not think that Poch, I got Poch on the brain. Doesn't the club not think Conte is the man who's going to take us forward? Like, I come back to what I said earlier. If they think he's going to be off in the summer, are they going to spend tons of money? Because if I was running the club, I wouldn't. And that's why I lay a bit of blame at Conte's door. You know, show us that you want to be leading our club for the next 2 or 3 years. Sign the contract. You know, you've got to show a bit of good faith and goodwill yourself. You know, Conte's not off the hook.
Let me ask that question then, Craig, because you're saying about Conte. Do you think the club at the moment, do you think that they want him to stay? Or do you think they've got something else planned?
I genuinely think they probably want to keep Conte at the club, but there's only so much you're going to take off somebody who's saying, no, I don't want to sign yet. I want to see what you do. Well, no, hang on. Conte's an employee of the club, and if the club want Conte to stay and they've offered him stuff and they're going to, they say, look, we're going to back you, but we need you to sign this contract first. I don't think that's, for me, if he's got 6 months left on his contract, as opposed to 3 years, if he's doing crap, they're going to get rid of him regardless. They're going to sack him. He can still walk away. If he's going to walk away, does it matter to him whether he walks away with 4 months left on his contract or 3 years left on his contract? So sign the bloody contract. If you want to commit to Tottenham Hotspur, the club's bigger than you, mate. Sign the contract, and then we will back you. Conte's not blameless in this. It winds me up that people think that, this is all Conte, and Conte's the goose that laid the golden egg. Do you know what I mean? He's a great manager. He's a world-class manager, but we want commitment from you. And that's what I'd want to see. So, because he's not blameless in all this. And it annoys me that he can't change, he can't change systems mid-game particularly well. He didn't see today where he was getting overrun. Has he improved players? Yes, absolutely, he has. But is there a limit to even his powers? There obviously is, because are the players still playing for him? Some of them, I just think, have reached their pinnacle and they can't do any more, to be honest with you, and that's where we need to strengthen.
Craig, another comment here. Players like Sessegnon, Dyer, Doherty, Royale, Davis, Sanchez are not consistent. They need to be sold. Good game, maybe then poor for several games. Okay, keep Conte, but Levy needs to buy Conte players. He talks about a process, and even Conte has said many times about time and patience. But it just seems whenever us Spurs fans are talking about our squad, it just seems that there are a whole host of players that we all agree on that are not good enough. Now, when you're in an Antonio Conte squad, he does need a better squad, doesn't he?
He does, but I genuinely think because there's got to be an element of this, because we've got such a fantastic stadium, they've got fantastic facilities, lovely training ground, nice hotel at the training ground. They're weighted on hand and foot. Players do not want to leave this club, no matter how crap we think they are. Yeah. You've got to look at Emerson Royal. He don't want to go anywhere because he's getting paid a really good wage. He comes into a lovely working environment. He's working with a world-class manager. Why would you want to leave that? You say, I'll just run my contract down. It's the same as Lucas Moura. I mean, all right, he's had his injuries this year, and I would never hold anything against Lucas Moura. That night in Amsterdam he gave us, we'll remember that forever. He'll be welcome back at the stadium. But he's 30 or whatever he is now, time for him to move on. But somebody like Emerson Royal needs to be moved on. We can't even sell players like Harry Winks and Dombele, Lo Celso, Reguilon. These players, why can't we sell these players? Because nobody wants to bloody buy them. That's why, Yeah. So why I did hear Paratici is good at getting players in, but he's not so good at moving players on, and it's kind of beginning to show now, isn't it? You just take a hit on these players, write them off as a bad job, get rid of them, because they're all still on the books, and you've still got Joe Roden as well. I've probably forgotten a couple as well that are still on loan. So it's a mess at the moment.
Craig,
it's funny.
Craig, you know what? 1 minute on Emerson Royal, right, and him not wanting to leave, and players that don't want to leave. There's a difference between our club and then big clubs. Emerson Royal didn't want to leave Barcelona, but Barcelona said, we've got a 25 million bid, you're going. He was promised to be the starting right back at Barcelona when he came back from Betis. But the money dropped on the table, Barcelona needed it, and they were like, I'm sorry, I know you want to stay, you're a lovely guy, I know that we promised you this when we first signed you, but you got to go, bro. And there's a ruthlessness with big teams. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like there is a ruthlessness, and sometimes when they're happy to sit there, you've got to be like, well, you're going. We've got a bid for you. You're going, or you can then sit in the reserves. I don't know how far I don't know how many times we've got to kind of, pander to some of these players that want to stick around or whatever the case may be. Sometimes I know that Levy asks too much money for the players that are on loan and are on sale or whatever, but you've got to come to a deal. If it's time to get rid of, it's time to get rid. Do you know what I mean? You have to take a cut and a hit if that means the team and the club moving forward. Otherwise, we can hold on to these and keep them happy forever we want. But then where are we going to be in the league? Where are we going to be? Are we going to be in Europe? What are we going to achieve with these players that are only there to kind of cash in and get their dough and be happy to be in the under-21s or the reserves or whatever? Do you know what I mean? Sometimes we've been saying this for a long time. Act like a big club. Barcelona said, listen, we've got the bid. See you later. So, you know? Sorry.
We've seen as well, Ricky, under Jose Mourinho, of course, we played in the Europa Conference League. Under Nuno and Conte, we played in the Europa Conference League, and now, of course, we're playing in the Champions League. Massive amount of money, massive difference. And as I've said many times, I think that the ball do need to fully back Conte. Another comment on screen, Simone. Let's come to you on this one. Conte could sign a contract and still walk in the summer if things aren't going to plan. I think he's trying to force the ball to do something now. Surely this situation with Conte has to be different to all of the other managers under ENIC and Daniel Levy. Surely this has to be the point where something just has to be different. Surely.
I hope so. My regret is that they didn't, ENIC and Daniel Levy didn't do what Mauricio wanted to do. Because of course, guys, for Antonio, they did an increase of capital last summer. 100 million pounds for Richarlison, Bissouma, and other important players. They never did for other managers. So, actually, I need to be honest, even if I totally agree with you and many that are criticizing Daniel Levy, but they backed Conte. I was waiting for something more from Antonio, by Antonio, and Antonio this season is failing to provide, because I'm gonna remember that in every press conference at the start of the season, he was saying that Man United, Man City, Liverpool, and Chelsea were the top four teams are there. Arsenal are winning the league, Antonio. This is a very important aspect to underline if you wanna be the Tottenham manager. And if you wanna be the Tottenham manager and you decide to pick up and to start Pepe Matasar, let's do it against Palace, let's do it against Portsmouth, but don't do it against Arsenal. It's all about Tottenham Arsenal, guys. If you want to be the proper Tottenham manager, you cannot do this kind of mistake. And today, guys, today, even if I'm an Italian journalist and I rate him a lot, trust me, a lot, because we are talking about one of the best Italian managers of the last 10, 15 years. He's doing mistakes, guys. He's doing mistakes.
Simone, I don't think I asked you that question. Do you think Conte will be the manager on the 1st of July?
Well, Chris, I'm a romantic man. You got to
yes
know
or
me.
no?
No.
Don't.
No.
Ricky, sometimes you've got to just get rid of the grey areas. Just a yes or no answer.
I can't do it, bruv. I can't do it. I've got too many grey areas. Look.
I know. We're all going grey supporting this club, I tell you. Simone, let's stay with you. Nigel writes here, catch 22. Conte won't commit unless they spend. They won't spend unless he commits. Haven't seen world class yet. What have you made of Conte's time at Spurs? Do you think that we have come on leaps and bounds under Conte? Do you think that he is still the man?
I think he did a miracle last season. It's not about Guardiola. It's not about Klopp. He was the only one that could do something like that. Bringing Tottenham from UEFA Conference League to UEFA Champions League was a miracle. In 7 months of work, he was asking about time, rebuilding foundations. Completely agree. Fantastic job. In every Chris Collins show last season, I was supporting Conte, and Chris knows it. This season, I'm a little bit critical about him because he deserves to be criticized about it. And,
can I just bring in this other question here? Do you think he's doing it on purpose about the tactics and player choices today, either to force Levy to back him or eventually to be forced to sack? to be sacked.
No, I don't think it's about forcing him to be sacked because it's 4 months of contract, guys. I could understand if we were talking about something like 3 years contract, 4 year contracts, 5 year contracts. Because of course, Antonio is not a Spurs fan. Mauricio Pochettino loves Spurs. Antonio is a fantastic professional, but he's working for Tottenham right now. Maybe in times of next summer, we don't know. So I don't think it's the right speech of saying it.
Right, Ricky, let's come to you. Let's talk about the game. After 7 minutes. Let's talk about the game after 1 hour and 20.
Make it quick.
Goodness.
I didn't think I'd be laughing on this stream, I must say. After 7 minutes, Hugo Lloris took too long on the ball, eventually gave the ball away. It was then crossed. Nketiah had the shot. Hugo Lloris then made a good save. I tell you what, a lot of Spurs fans were frustrated again with Hugo Lloris at that point. What did you make of Hugo's performance today?
Honestly, it was one of the worst, mate. It was one of the worst. I mean, look, he came back and there was a couple of saves, but Sessegnon didn't help on the left-hand side. The amount of times that we were talking about dribbles or, like him losing the ball or like, so he didn't help down that side either. Saka was all over that back line on their right-hand side, our left. And Lloris, I think after that goal was conceded, if you would have seen his reaction, and I know you probably haven't seen it as yet, Chris, on TV, but he was mumbling and he was talking, he was ranting to himself in French. And the only thing that I can think of is that he was cussing out himself. Do you know what I mean? He was like, I can't believe that just happened. What? Because it was such a fumble. I've never seen like a fumble like that. Do you know what I mean? Like that, it was not from Lloris, but there have been these fumbles just keep coming into the game. Like they just keep creeping in. They're creeping in. So it especially from a captain, especially somebody who's been in the North London derby and knows about this game, for a good nearly 10 years now. Do you know what I mean? So it was just shocking. Really. I say shocking. It wasn't shocking. It was terrible. It was terrible. And
Ricky, I know you love these yes or no questions.
Go on.
Is it time to change our goalkeeper?
Yeah, it probably is, mate. It probably is. And I hate to say that. I've always said, especially when his contract was up a couple of seasons ago, or last season, I think it was. I was like, you know what? He deserves a new contract. When he goes, we're gonna miss him, and that may be true. But today, the biggest difference between us and the Gooners were the goalkeepers.
Yeah.
In the second half, we did come on to the game. We did have a good couple of opportunities. Even at the end of the first half, we had a couple. Kulu had a shot, and I think Harry had a bit of a header. But Ramsdale was solid. He was big. He was strong. He was confident. He was young. He was hungry. He was on a mission. Hugo, from the beginning, how you just described, like the fumbles and the goal being conceded and stuff like that, that was the beginning of the end, mate. Because I knew sitting at home there that all we're going to get is an onslaught from the Gooners, and they're just going to gain confidence the more they come forward and the more they go. They knew that to have a couple of pot shots at Lloris, like you were saying there about the what's his name, the Partey shot and Ødegaard shot where he lined one up. They knew that we was there for the taking, and it was really disappointing from Hugo. So it probably is that time, bro, that we have to start looking for a new number one, unfortunately.
Well, after 11 minutes, Ødegaard crossed to Thomas Partey, who headed over the bar. And then, of course, after 14 minutes, Arsenal went 1-0 up with a Lloris own goal. I must admit, inside the stadium, when that goal went in, the amount of people around me just sort of looked around them as if to say, what on earth has just happened? Craig, let's come to you on this. After 14 minutes, Arsenal take the league, and Lloris' own goal. What on earth was he doing?
As I said, if he'd stood up, he'd have just caught it. I don't know what he was doing on the floor. I really don't, because it did take a slight deflection, but come on, just stand up at your near post, keep yourself big. That's basic goalkeeping. It was a dreadful error, and he was mumbling to himself. I don't know if it was in French, Rick. I can't lip read French, but I would assume it was. He knew he'd dropped a clanger, and for me, he's been a great servant to the club. I think he's been fantastic. He's definitely saved us in games, but it's probably time now to look to upgrade Lloris. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't do it last summer, much the same when they bought Lloris in and Friedel was kind of, still in number one, but Lloris was introduced over a few weeks and a few months and then became number one, and that was the plan all along. So, whoever they're looking to get in, it's we got to make the right decision there, because that's hopefully going to be somebody who's going to be in between the sticks for a long time to come. But yeah, terrible error. Not the best way to start a North London derby and again concede first.
Simone, let's come to you. Just 4 minutes later, we had the chance to equalise. Sessegnon to Min Son, who shot, and Ramsdale saved with his legs. Son has had quite a disappointing season when certainly when you compare it to last season being leading goal scorer in the Premier League.
Yeah, if you compare his stats to the ones of last season, of course we need to regard them as very, very disappointing, but we are still talking about a top class player, guys. And in this case, I'm backing Conte in terms of what he said in the previous press conferences. If we start to discuss about Harry Kane or Heung-min Son, we are in trouble, guys. We are in trouble. We need to discuss about Ben Davies, Eric Dyer, Emerson Royal, Matt Doherty, Sarr, or players like Ryan Sessegnon. Heung-min Son is still a big part of Spurs' plan, not just for the present, but mainly for the future, because I think that in the next 2 or maybe 3 years, Heung-min Son will play a massive part, not just for Spurs, but mainly for Premier League stats.
Rick, let's come to you. After 22 minutes, Ødegaard had a shot from around 20 yards. Hugo Lloris with a good save to his left. Just 3 minutes later, what a hit from Thomas Partey, hit the post. A stunning strike. How are you feeling by that point? What a silly question.
I was feeling like, what's the point here? What is going on, honestly? Honestly, we're lucky that it was 2-0. They could have had 4 or 5 today. Easy. But I tell you what, I was almost emotionless, which is even worse than being angry. I know that sounds weird, but when you see, as soon as those first couple of flaps from Lloris and Cess and Doherty doing, I don't know what he was doing on the right-hand side. I looked at the team and I was just like, oh no, here we go. And I just knew it was going to be one of those days. And I was tired. I was bored. Not so much of the football. I don't mean that, but I mean of the situation. It was the same old. And here we go again.
What I don't get, Ricky, is the fact that, I think Craig said it earlier as well, the amount of time and space that a lot of these Arsenal players had on the edge of our box. Because in the 36th minute, Ødegaard with another shot had so much space and time in a North London derby.
Well, mate, I don't know whose job was doing whose job. I don't know whether Højbjerg should have been there to kind of screen the back three, or maybe one of the Dyer being the centre of the 3 centre backs. Maybe he should have been marshalling up and pressing a bit higher. But we were scared. We went into our shells again. We went into let's feel sorry for ourselves again for a little bit. We just went into our shells and was like, oh no, it was panic stations. It was deer in headlights type of moment. And we just allowed them to play the game that they wanted to play. And there was no reaction. Romero tried to get the boys going. And the way that he tries to get people going is with his aggression. You see, he's an aggressive player when we score and when we defend. Do you know what I mean? In defense and attack, he's an aggressive player. And he tried to get something going. It just wasn't happening. Everybody just fell back into their show again. So I don't know, mate.
Rick,
I really don't.
Rick, it felt to me today a little bit like the Man U 3-0, the last game before Nuno went. That's how it felt to me today in some parts.
Yeah, agreed.
Craig, we did have a chance of getting one back just before half time. Harry Kane, what an opportunity, because he could have equalled Jimmy Greaves' record against Arsenal today.
Yeah, was that the header you're talking about, the little flick header, or it was
across him from Højbjerg, flicked on with the head. Ramsdale saved.
Yeah, again, I mean, I don't know if you know, Ramsdale got man of the match, so I suppose that says for something, because he did pull off some really good saves today, and a good save from Kane. But those chances were few and far between. I think we had 2 or 3 touches in the opposition penalty box in that first half. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it just weren't good enough. It just wasn't good enough. But if he'd managed to sneak that in, would it have changed the game? Possibly. But are the trophies coming? No. That's a one-word answer.
Oh.
You're getting the hang of this yes or no business, aren't you?
No, I'm sure Darren Altman would have said, if Darren's still, if he hasn't slit his wrists, I'm sure he would say exactly the same thing, but probably with a few more swear words. So I really do feel like swearing tonight, but I'm not going to because I'm a professional.
Yes. Craig, of course, at half time it was 2-0. In the 49th minute, Kulusevski with a shot over the bar. Just a minute later, Kulusevski into Kane, who shot. Ramsdale with a good save. A couple of minutes later, Sessegnon with a great chance. He missed. Now, I know you've been very critical, certainly in recent months, of Emerson Royal. What did you make of Ryan Sessegnon's performance today? Because I keep going on about it. The wing backs are so important to Antonio Conte's system. The wing backs should be providing so many assists. They should be chipping in with the goals. Surely Sessegnon had to be doing better there.
Yeah, absolutely. He didn't have, as I said before, he didn't have a very good game today. And again, look, you could say that was a really good save by Ramsdale. Let's not take it away. Let's not take it away from the save. Sometimes you got to put your hands up and say, do you know what, it was a good shot, but it was an even better save. So that shot was our into the far post. To give Sessegnon a little bit of slack, I don't think he could have done much more other than perhaps lift it a bit and bobble over his leg, because he did save it with his toe. But if that's how games are won, on thin margins like that, and he has really got to be finishing that, if I'm being critical. But I just don't think he's good enough, Chris. I think, persevere with him. He's gone out on loan. I just don't think he's good enough for that role. As much as I don't think Emerson Royale's good enough for the role. I don't think Doherty's good enough for the role. I think he's better than Emerson. I think, and as I say, Spence for me would be the ideal fit. But obviously, for some reason, Conte's seeing something that we don't. And he weren't even on the bench today. I mean, how can you not put Spence on the bench and have Royale on the bench? I don't know. I'd be interested to see what Simone think. You know more about Conte from the Italian perspective. Once he gets a player that is clear that he doesn't like Eriksen when he was first at Inter Milan, will he just not play that player as much as the fans want to see that player? Is he that stubborn, or how does that all work with Conte?
Yeah. That was completely true. He struggled to find the right position for Eriksen in his prime 3-5-2 system, and it's the same situation that he's facing with Jens Spence. Guys, I don't know that in perspective, in terms of potential, Jens Spence is a better player than Emerson Royal both, and Matt Doherty. But of course, Antonio wants in his systems that are 3-5-3 3-4-3 or 3-5-2, Antonio clearly wants every single player to listen to his instructions. That is good for players like Rodrigo Bentancur. And I need nowadays to admit to Chris that Rodrigo Bentancur is a massive player for Tottenham. The player that he turned out to be is incredible. But it's not as good as it should be for players like Bissouma, because Bissouma lost a sort of freedom that Graham Potter in his Brighton times gave him. And today, Bissouma, guys, is struggling to find a place into a starting level for Tottenham. And we are not talking about a Spurs side that is trying to win the Champions League with Mauricio Pochettino. We are talking about a Spurs side that is struggling to find this place back into the Europa League. So we are talking about a very, very difficult situation, guys. And it's incredible. It's incredible. If you think about the situation of 6 months ago, it's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
You know what? You know what, Cess, right? You know what, Cess, it's not even the shot that you can miss a shot. The goalkeeper can be great. There was a point in the second half where we was pushing up and we was on an attack, and it went out to the left-hand side, and he couldn't stop the ball. He went to put his foot on the ball when he went out for a throw-in, and it was a Guna throw-in. And that's when I knew. I was just like, wow. Do you know what I mean? Like he's just not the one right now, or he's lost that in his chest.
That is what is so painful for today's result and performance for me, Ricky, is the fact that you've got our leader and our goalkeeper, Hugo Lloris, letting in that goal in the first half. You've got Ryan Sessegnon, who can't even control the ball out on the left. It's just, these things cannot happen in such an important game, in a North London derby of all matches at home. It just cannot happen. Yeah. Honestly, it's so frustrating. Simone, let's stay with you. In the 53rd minute, Doherty crossed, no one there, but that was probably Tottenham's best spell at the start of the second half. We've seen that so often this season that we're losing at half time, and then we come out and then we suddenly come alive. What do you put that down to? Did that ever happen under Conte Inter?
No, never. Neither in Inter de Milan, neither in Juventus. It's the first time in his career. So, of course, he's talking about the reaction.
It would be.
So, welcome to Tottenham.
Incredible. Welcome to Tottenham, really, guys. Incredible. Neither in Juventus, neither in Inter de Milan, neither in Chelsea, as you know. In Chelsea, of course, guys, were facing an incredible team, like Spurs in 2016, 2017. But never conceded so many goals in the first half. Of course, here, Antonio needs to understand that he's facing a new challenge. He needs to start from the youngster, from the teens. He needs to build year after year. But I strongly don't think that he's the right man for the job in terms of what he's gonna have to do in the next couple of years if he decides to stay.
So, Murray, Nigel writes a question to you here. Is Conte a world-class manager?
No, 100%. Okay. No. Because I love just pants, guys.
See, Ricky, do you get how Craig and Smoley are just answering these questions like yes or no? This is exactly how you need to be in the future.
No, that's why you bring me on.
Chris, I understand that you are not gonna play just pants if you got Maicon, Daniel Alves, of course. I totally agree with you guys. But if you got Matt Doherty, the Irish Cafu, or Emerson Royal, I will play just pants. I will teach just pants how to act as a proper right wing back. This is my feeling. So it's incredible, guys. It's incredible. The situation is incredible.
I can't wait for the next show when I ask all the questions and you just go yes or no, and we'll be done in about 3 minutes. Yeah. Ricky, let's come to you. In the 56th minute, Harry Kane out to Kulusevski. He cut in, shot wide. What do you make of Kulusevski's return?
It was good to have him back, but you can tell he's a bit rusty. He's been thrust back in there, and he's had a couple of training sessions. So maybe the accuracy wasn't there, but again, he gives us something different. And if we go back to when he signed for us, it took him a couple of games to get himself up to speed. So that's what it reminded me of. He came back and he was full of willing, he was full of running, and he was trying to make it happen, but there was a bit of rust on him. There was a little bit of he wasn't up to full speed. But now that he's back in the side, and now that if he can get a few games and it starts to get a rhythm, he's a dynamite player that can change a lot of things for Tottenham. And I think he tried his best. And if we would have had Brian Hill in there as well, I think that he probably would have got overrun today. So, hopefully there's better days to come for Cowlin.
I can tell you almost lost for words, Rick, when you talk about some of these players. Yeah, I know what you mean. After 61 minutes, Kulusevski crossed to Sessegnon, who again didn't find the target, shot over the bar. 7 minutes later, Thomas Partey had another chance for Arsenal from 20 yards out, shot wide. Nketiah clear on goal. Lloris made a good save in the 69th minute. And then Richarlison come on in the 71st minute for Matt Doherty. Craig, what did you make of Richarlison's 20 minutes or so for Spurs today?
I think all you can say is that it's good to have him back as an option, to be honest. I don't think he did loads, to be honest. He certainly didn't change the game, I wouldn't say. But it's just good to have him back. And, he'll get his fitness up and hopefully get his first Premiership goal, to be honest, for us. That would be nice. I mean, I was obviously hoping he would get that today, but didn't really get much of a sniff, did he? But as I say, good to have him back for selection.
Right, in the 75th minute, Sessegnon went off, Sarr went off, Perisic and Basuma came on. In the 82nd minute, Richarlison had a shot, Ramsdale saved. In the 84th minute, Harry Kane to Heung-min Son, who shot over the bar. And then in the 87th minute, Heung-min Son with a free kick blocked. And that was it. 2-0 defeat. Arsenal, I tell you, I don't know how you can laugh, Rick. When you look at the league table, Arsenal are 14 points clear of Spurs, and they have a game in hand. I tell you what, that is one hell of a difference to last time we played them at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Simone, there's two things I want to cover before we go off air. Of course, we play Manchester City next. We'll preview that in a minute, but I just want to talk about the transfer window before. Yeah. In an ideal world, what do you think Spurs need in this transfer window if they are going to back Antonio Conte?
If Paratici will manage to sell someone of his disgraceful right wing backs, a new right wing back. This is my feeling. I don't know if Pedro Porro from Sporting Lisbon or not Pedro Porro, because for me, even Matty Cash from Aston Villa could be a better option for the right wing backs for Spurs. And
Johnny Cash should be a better option.
and then guys, maybe a center defender, center back. I don't know if left-footed, right-footed, because of course Leandro Trossard, I read so many comments about an opportunity. We'll see. Leandro Trossard, guys, is a very, very good player. Tottenham needs someone to strengthen their attacking options, so why not? Why not? Of course, Lucas Moura is at the end of his career, at the end of his era at Tottenham Hotspur, so maybe from Brighton, Leandro Trossard could be both a cheaper option and then a very, very good player to add to Antonio Conte's attacking options.
You know what? Can I ask a question, Chris, if you don't mind, on transfers?
Yep. Go for it.
So Milenkovic-Savic in midfield. I heard that there was a rumor. There was a rumor that he could possibly go on loan and then with an option to buy in the summer. Could that be an option?
No. Or loan with an option to buy, never, Ricky, never. We are talking about someone that is a really, really expensive. We are talking about one of the best players here in Italy in the Serie A, And I don't know if you know Lotito, that is the chairman of Lazio, is a sort of Levy, a sort of Daniel Levy, because if he wanna sell someone, he wanna that price of money. So 80 million pounds, 90 million pounds, or not.
Okay.
So we are talking about this kind of chairmans, guys. So we are talking about definitely an incredible player, fantastic player, one of the best in Italy, but very, very expensive.
And sorry, Chris, sorry, brother, but I've had these burning on my brain for a minute. With Pedro Porro, okay, I know a lot of us saw him play very well against us, but you know his stature, he's 5'7". You know, he's not the stature that Antonio really likes. So
Yeah.
and also there's an injury record there as well. He's had a couple of niggles, you know, throughout the seasons that he's been there. So would Denzel Dumfries be a better option, and could he be available?
Yeah.
Also Skriniar's got 6 months left until he's a free. So could that be an option as well?
Ricky, Skriniar has got PSG on his back. So PSG, what we got to know is they are very, very interested in signing him on a free transfer, just like you say. And Denzel Dumfries, the Netherlands international, is a very, very good player. Maybe technically not as good as Pedro Porro, but in terms of the physical abilities that Antonio wants his right wing back to be in his system, maybe Dumfries for me is a better option. And another news, Dumfries is not even a starter anymore for Inter de Milan, because the last 2 games was benched by their manager Simone Inzaghi. So this is another news. Why not? Fantastic in terms of physical ability player, Denzel Dumfries.
Is he more suited to Conte's system than
Yeah, definitely. Porro is better in terms of technical ability, but Porro for me, just like you said, is not as physical, just like a proper right wing back for Antonio Conte's system needs to be. Porro for me from Sporting Lisbon is more a right back. Dumfries is a proper strong right wing back. This is my feeling.
Okay. That's
have
it.
You changed your mind? Have you changed your mind on Kulusevski and Bentancur, Simone?
Yeah, I changed it. I thought I changed it, but not just about Kulusevski, for Bentancur. But Chris, that is still joking on me about this kind of situation. Trust me, guys, Bentancur in Italy was I'm not saying a disaster, but we, not just me, we in Italy, any journalists didn't see any kind of development in his abilities. What Rodrigo Bentancur turned out to be, and for me is one of the most important players for Spurs right now, is just incredible, guys. It's just incredible. And today, Spurs and Conte missed it so much. Yeah.
Ricky, what do you think Spurs will get in the transfer window? What do you think is realistic?
Who knows what's realistic anymore, Chris? I hope that they get 2 in at the very least. And right wing back being the first one, you know, the priority position right there. I think you can see how much, and we've said it week in, week out. Do you know what I mean? You know, the wing backs are the most important position on the field for Antonio Conte team and system. So I think we 100% need a right wing back, and then whether we get a creative midfielder or a defender, an upgrade in defense, or as a creative midfielder or attacker, I think we need to do that too. You know, as you said there, Lucas Moura is coming to the end of his contract. We're going to let that run down supposedly, and he's not been available the whole season as yet. So we need to start prepping. The thing that worries me about Tottenham is always the replacements. You know, we didn't get to replace Kyle Walker. I could go on for days. We said it before. But when we replace a player, and what level do we go in at? And, you know, and how well is that recruitment to replace that player and move forward with the new player? We know that right wing back, ever since Kyle Walker has left, has been a problem. Do you know what I mean? So for every manager that's been there. So, I think they really need to solve this conundrum real soon. And even though this is why I was asking Simone there about Denzel Dumfries and Pedro Porro, I know that a lot of fans are backing Porro because we've seen him, we've seen the dribbling, we've seen the skills, we've seen the crossing, we've seen the assists, we've seen that he can score as well. And he looks very exciting. But if he ain't the one that Conte wants for a Conte system, then are we just going down the same rabbit hole as Royal and the rest of them? Do you know what I mean? Are we going down the same rabbit hole? So that's why it's really important to get Conte's number one targets in the positions that he feels that are the most important right now.
It's funny, Rick, because the amount of journalists that get on this show, on this channel, and I ask them about all these names that we're being linked to, and then the journalist comes back and says, no. Yeah, exactly like you did with Simone there. What about them? No. So let's hope in the next 16 days there will be a couple of yeses and we will get a couple of signings in to help Conte, because of course Champions League football is so important for this football club. And as I said earlier, we're 5 points adrift of the top four. Craig, what do you think is realistic in this window?
Probably 2 signings. I was surprised, actually. You say Pedro Porro's a right back, not a right wing back, Simone. Is that right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, has he ever played right wing back? Because are we going to have another Emerson Royale situation? That's all. I genuinely didn't know much about him. That's all.
Pedro Porro is very important to their attack. Him and Marcus Edwards are absolutely key to a lot of their attacks.
Right.
I'm personally quite excited about this signing, but from what I'm told by a number of journalists, Spurs would need to offload one of the right wing backs first. We've got 3: Matt Doherty, Emerson Royale, and them 2 don't want to go anywhere. Then of course you've got the Jed Spence situation. Will he go out on loan or not? Is it realistic that Spurs bring in a 4th right wing back? I'm not sure.
In that case, then as somebody mentioned earlier, you've got to be ruthless. And if you want rid of Emerson Royale, you're going to say, look, you're going to have to, your agent's got to find you another club. There's not a place for you in this squad. Thank you very much, but he's not been good enough. So you're not going to be in the match day squad. So you either find another club or you train with the under 23s, and that's it. So I'm surprised actually Levy isn't going to go for Milenkovic-Savic, because he would be thinking that you could charge fans by the letter for the name on the back, and that would make a fortune. So perhaps we're going to get players with long names. I don't know. Perhaps that's the way forward. But no,
I don't think it works like that anymore.
Oh, it doesn't, does it? No, I was just trying to make myself laugh because I haven't really had much to laugh at. I don't know. Look.
We'd probably get Jensen Milenkovic, bro. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the days of us expecting Bruno Fernandes and we end up with Jetson Fernandes. I tell you,
it's just shocking, isn't it? It's shocking.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Lastly, let's talk about our next game in the Premier League. Manchester City away.
Oh, nice easy one. Nice easy one.
Craig, let's start with you. How do you see this one game? How do you see this game going? Will Emerson be back at right back?
Yeah, he will. That's a joke. That is the joke. He will be. He will be. And talk about a bad situation. Of course, I want Tottenham to win. We beat City twice. That's given the title to Arsenal. It can only happen to us. So how do I see the game going? I think, and I don't wish to be defeatist, but I think they're going to turn us over. I really do. I just can't see any way that we win that game. I'm really sorry, but I've got to be honest. I just can't see us winning that game. I know we've got a good record against City, and I know, they've lost recently. They're not what they were, and then, in my opinion, they're not playing to Haaland's strengths, even though he scored 21 goals. But he made so many good runs yesterday, and he just weren't fed the ball. So yes, yeah. I just think they're going to be too much for us. I think. Sorry to say, but yeah, not the best game to come into. But then again, last year we all thought, we're going into that City game, we turn them over, and then we lose to, was it Burnley or something? We lost to. So well,
of course, it doesn't get any easier after that either, Craig, does it? Because we face Fulham away, who of course have been very, very decent this season. I know they lost today at Newcastle, but they've had a great season in the Premier League so far.
Carlos Vinicius will score us against us.
Oh no. Simone, what are you thinking? Manchester City away on Thursday. Do you think that the Spurs can get back to winning ways, or is this going to be too difficult?
4-1 to Man City. I will be clear, guys. You know me. So,
Ricky, can Spurs win this game? Yes or no?
Of course they can. Of course they can. We're Tottenham, bruv. You know how crazy our team is, that we could feel like we're at the bottom of the damn sea, and yet we could still come up for air and find that lifeboat. We're a crazy side, bruv. We're an absolutely nutty side. So of course,
guys. But as Spurs win, we'll concede a title to Arsenal. The title to Arsenal. So let's check all the situations.
I hear you. But of course we can. And you know me, bro. When it comes down to this question, I'm a bit delusional, and I can't ever back my team to lose. So of course we can go out there and win. Of course we can show some character and show some will and show some fight. Let's see what happens. Come on, you Spurs.
Let's get your score predictions. I know, Simone, you just said 4-1. Ricky, what are you going for?
I'm going for 2-1 Tottenham. Get in, you Spurs.
Craig, what are you going for?
I think for the first time ever on this channel, I'm going to say 2-1 City. Sorry.
Okay. I don't know what on earth I'm going to go for. I've not even thought about my score prediction. I'll tell you Thursday morning. Good grief. Well, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I know it's never easy talking about Spurs' defeat, especially to our North London rivals who are sitting top of the Premier League. Ricky, thanks so much for joining me. Tell everyone what you're up to at the moment and where people can find you.
Thank you, Chris. Always an honor and a pleasure, even on a bad day like this. Like, it's always so cathartic to kind of come and just lay it all out. You guys know where you can find me. I'll probably be on the channel. Oh, I am after Man City, I think. And at Ricky J Norwood, you can find me on Twitter. At official Ricky Norwood on Insta. And yeah, bro, there's loads of things happening house-wise and work-wise. So yeah, when I got something concrete to say, I'll let you know. But it's we're just trying to get back on the grind in this January period. So thank you so much for having me on. As always, come on, you Spurs.
Thank you so much. And Craig, thanks so much for coming back on, especially talking about a defeat again on this channel. Tell everyone where they can find you.
Well, you can find me on Twitter if you really want to, at Demon9, and usually just, as I've said before, it's usually just about Tottenham. I usually just use it to follow people and listen to what people we're not going to get in the transfer market. So that's what I usually do on there. So, and just find myself getting frustrated with the same things round and round. But look, I'm going to leave you on a slight high. That's Shalini again. I tell you, I need to get Darren or Ricky. You need to get me a looky like one of those agencies. I think I don't know. But I'll walk in and say, "Who's that?" No, they're probably, who's that geezer that looks like Craig Dearman? That's what it will be. No, I mean, what I would say is other clubs like your Liverpools and that, the fans are just as frustrated as us, if not more, at the moment. So, there are, if you think you're in a bad position, there's always someone worse off than you. So just think where West Ham are. So yeah. at least we're not down there. So but thanks for watching, everybody. I think I came on this chat last season when we lost, or it might have been when we lost to Arsenal back in 2022, I can't remember, but yeah, never pleasant, but it is quite cathartic and healing in a way. Well, no, I wouldn't say healing, but it's good to talk, as they say. So always a pleasure to be on. So let's hope I'm wrong and we do get a win against City on Thursday. But come on, you Spurs.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Craig. And Simone, great to have you back on again. Thanks so much, and tell everyone where they can find you and what you're up to at the moment.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you. Thank you, really. A pleasure.
Yeah, and where can people find you, Simone?
Sorry?
Where can people find you on social media?
Simone Doc dell'Uomo 21 on Instagram, guys. On Instagram.
And you'll bring all of the Tottenham fans some good news about transfers.
I hope so, guys. I hope so. That's new doggy.
Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I hope so.
Well, on that note, Craig, Ricky, Simone, thanks so much for your time, and thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for listening. If you don't subscribe on YouTube already, please do hit that subscribe button, and also follow us on all audio platforms as well. And we will see you on the next one. Until then, come on, you Spurs.
Come on.